Cashflow Diary Podcast, episode 516.
Welcome to yet another exciting episode of the CashFlow Diary Podcast, the podcast that teaches you insider tips, tactics, and strategies for creating leverage streams of cash flow into your life. Learn from top-performing entrepreneurs, business owners, investors, and thought leaders from across the globe as they share their secrets to success. Like what you learn on this and other CashFlow Diary podcast episodes? Go to learninvestingnow.com and sign up to receive powerful tips and information that will help you succeed as an entrepreneur and investor. Now, here's your host, investor, entrepreneur, business owner, educator, speaker, author, and master facilitator of Robert Kiyosaki's cash flow game, Jay Massey.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, welcome to another episode of the Cashflow Diary Podcast. I'm your host, Jay Massey, and I'm glad that you are here today because what we are going to talk about today is kind of like, the future. What do I mean specifically? I have always told you that where you start isn't necessarily where you stay. And I've also said, once you get started, stay started. Because on this entrepreneurial journey, when you are out there building your business, building your cash flow, building you, honestly, you grow, you change, you try many different things until you find the 1, 2, 12, 30 things that you feel work, and then you eventually land somewhere. And you continue to work on it and make it better. And that's kind of the process for nearly every entrepreneur I have ever met. And I think today's guest is absolutely no exception. I have with me none other than Ori Segi. You may know him from some of his previous ventures, Smart IL and Lenn Ventures, but Ori is a serial entrepreneur with extensive experience in developing high growth businesses. Now, I like the idea of high growth. We all get excited about high growth, but I think today we're also going to hear that high growth may not always be the fun, sexy, exciting thing that we think, but more importantly, there's also great lessons to learn from the story. Now, when it comes down to it, being an entrepreneur, it's not easy. It's a journey. It's a story. But most importantly, we all have a reason why. And that's exactly what we're going to learn. We're going to learn, why is Ori out there? Why is he doing what he's doing? But most importantly, how is it helping the world, and how can you learn some lessons to go out there and build your business as well? So let's get ready to listen, to learn, and to love Ori Segi. Ori, how are you doing?
Good, thank you. Thank you for the introduction.
I'm glad that you're here today, and I appreciate you taking the time. Now, this being the first time that you're here, I have to ask you the same question I tend to ask everybody else. Are you ready?
Sure.
All right. I tend to look at today's entrepreneurs a lot like yesterday's superheroes, like Batman, Robin, Wonder Woman, etc. And I think entrepreneurs and superheroes have a ton of things in common. For example, as an entrepreneur, occasionally I can envision myself flying around town, saving our customers one sale at a time with our products and services. And yes, I'm probably wearing a cape at that moment. Also, though, like a superhero, an entrepreneur has a beginning. So if you think about Spider-Man, for example, there was a time where he was just a kid going to school, doing his thing, taking some photos, trying to make some extra money for the weekend to take Mary Jane on a date. And then one day he gets bit by a spider, discovers that he's got a superhuman ability, and now he's presented with a choice whether to use this new skill for good or for evil. So my question to you is as follows. When it comes down to, everything that you've done before Smart IL, before Lenn Ventures, before the real estate and everything else that people know you for today, what we really want to know is, who is Ori Segi?
I think I want to add one more thing to the hero kind of element where
okay.
It's the struggles and the sacrifice you make, especially when you have a family, that you sacrifice time and money, obviously, and a lot of tension and stress. And I think that's what makes us true heroes, because the ability to kind of go through the stress and be aware of what we're sacrificing and be aware and put our eyes on the targets always. So that's kind of because we wouldn't be around or nothing that we have done would be possible besides of the support that we get from internally from those around us. So that's, I think, what makes us heroes as well. But but to your question, a little bit about myself. Originally from Israel, was focused always on. I think you addressed it correctly in your introduction. The why is the most important thing. Why entrepreneur is entrepreneur, and why product is successful or eventually successful. Coming with an idea is just a phase, or it's just everybody has an idea. Everybody's going around the street and said, "Oh, I wish I could do this. Maybe we can do that." But you got to understand why you want to do it and why people need it. And I think it's the essence of all of every successful venture. Throughout my life, I had the tendency of recognizing the why through the environment or surrounding things that surrounded me. I think being an entrepreneur, you always have to kind of listen, to look around, to analyze, to measure, and to assess what's worth it and what's not, and what's doable and what's not. From the instant messaging platform I was part of creating through Smart, we're sitting in an office looking and seeing that people are texting each other through MSN Messenger back in the day, and realizing that there's a need, but there's not a solution, not a proper solution for people to kind of securely do that for organization, etc. And that kind of created a notion of creating a company, all the way to real estate potential investment that we've been doing through distressed times. We're recognizing that we're going through distressed times just by listening, seeing that people are taking crazy mortgages that I cannot afford and buying stupid things that I cannot afford, etc., etc. So when you look around you and you analyze situations, and you analyze opportunities, if you lean smart and focused enough, you'll be able to kind of create the what to the why. And I think that's kind of what makes entrepreneur.
There was a second there when you were mentioning MSN Messenger. I was wondering if you were going to go all the way back to like ICQ or AOL Instant Messenger. I was like, okay, well, this is good. And because I think there's a lot of people who may not even have heard of or used those things.
Yeah.
Oh, but I've got a question. You said something, and you said it really fast. So when you were talking in the beginning about, the superhero thing, and I'm just curious. You said that you had to be aware of what we're sacrificing. And I guess my question is it a sacrifice? Is it still a sacrifice if we're not aware?
That's a nice question. It's always a sacrifice. I mean, the aware just makes it, it depends on your personal situation, right? Because when you're 22, 23, 24 years old, and you have an idea, or you from a coffee shop all the way to whatever a startup that it is, and it's all about an opportunity cost, right? I mean, you have to know your talent, you have to know your skills, and sacrificing in a way might be something that you think you're good at, not recognizing the thing that you're actually good at because you're listening to their own voices, because you think that it might be cool to own a coffee shop, or it might be cool to be a tech venture or a tech like startupist, but you potentially may be a great singer. You know what I mean? So you got to understand your skill. You got to listen to yourself, and got to understand what you're willing or not willing to do and sacrifice in order for you to get to your goals. You always, sacrifice, we shouldn't look at it as something that bad, right? It's something. Sacrifice gets you to the point where you potentially become successful. When you grow older and you have more responsibility, like family and kids and that's the main kind of, for me especially, that's the main purpose of life. Then the opportunity cost and the tension and the stress and the time you spent out or in, those are little sacrifices that you do, but again, for the greater good, potentially looking to create whatever financial stability or professional achievements, or et cetera, et cetera. So his sacrifice is a sacrifice without really being aware of it. Yeah, it's always a sacrifice, but unless I'm interpreting the word wrong.
No, I think you got it right. It was just a thought that occurred to me, is because as you mentioned, there's a stage at which we could be, and some people are making sacrifices, but we may not frame them or think of them as sacrifices because, well, we don't have something necessarily opposite. When you say we don't have that opposite pressure of a kid yet, or an opposite pressure of a significant other, or whatever the opposite pressure might be, we may not be viewing it as a sacrifice or paying any sort of opportunity cost. because I tend to look at the sacrifice as giving up, something good for something better. And I think that we all do that in various shape or form. And that's kind of what I think your story is about here, because I know that your current venture, Envoy, there, I would love to know how we got there. What do you wake up one day and just go, cool, this is what I'm going to do? Or is there more to the story that is this more of an evolution?
It's an evolution. It's a mix of a lot of things that happened through my life and through my partner's life, Eric, my co-founder. We were through the real estate stuff and through before the tech ventures that I've been doing. But I think it came out about where we recognize a need. We recognize why somebody needs that. We were doing our real estate stuff. Eric and I, his name is Eric Ohana. He's my co-founder at Envoy, and he's a longtime friend of mine and a business partner in my real estate ventures for many years. And aside of the fact that we've been good friends and great partners, it's also we're working together and kind of, we call it ping pong. We're like talking of different needs and different like things that are happening around us as real estate guys, as tech guys, as like entrepreneurs in mind, and we recognize that mobility is changing around us. A car should be an amenity. We recognize that the whole evolution of mobility, the second one is actually revolution is actually happening. 1920 something was the first one. I think we're facing the second one now. And recognizing it from the real estate lenses, from the mindset, not from the auto industry, recognizing the need as a developer, as an operator, as an amenity, as a property operator, but also corresponding, like talking to tenants, we suddenly realized that something's up, like something is here. There's a big thing that's happening and there's a big opportunity around us. And that's why we created a community-based car sharing, which is pretty much mobility as an amenity. You can look at it as the laundry room in the building or the elevator in the building the day before they were created. Now it's a standard thing that everybody kind of see as no-brainer, right? I think we treat mobility the same. But to your question, it's all of the above. Everything I've been ever touched with got me to the point where I was able, with Eric, to create a lean, smart, very fast company, and yeah, we've been growing fast, really fast, and actually in the last 12 months. Sorry, not to say that it's because of us. It's because we potentially maybe smart or talented or just good at execution, but I think it's more obviously the great team that we have around us. And on top of it, it's the industry, it's the market condition. You talked about entrepreneurship, you talked about why people should do what they do. I think time to market is the most critical thing being an entrepreneur. Recognizing when you should launch your product, your place, your coffee, whatever it is. You should really assess the market situation. And in our end, in mobility end, I think we were lucky enough and somewhat smart enough to launch it the right place at the right time, because everything is changing around us. So I can go on and on and on for like 5 hours now, so I'll stop.
No, this is good. It says so many things about what you're doing. It's not just, I mean, oftentimes when you're an entrepreneur and you're building a business, you're building something. Some people could be building it just because they say, hey, cool, I can do this and make a lot of money. I can already hear behind what the way that you're talking that it's more than just that. But I do have a very interesting question. A number of our listeners are striving to build cash flow and striving to put themselves in, take their business or their job and leave it and begin to build a real estate portfolio. And many of them view the real estate portfolio as the final destination. Yet you've been there, you've done that, and you're like, no, that's not enough for me. I want to do more. Talk to me about that.
Real estate, when you plan, when you invest correctly and you assess the market and you analyze correctly the deal and you buy a good property and you have a good cash flow, that somewhat creates stability. There's a difference between, it depends on your goals, right? If you want to create wealth or you want to I mean, it depends where you want to take it. Me personally, yeah, I've been doing a lot of real estate deals, and some of them were actually like super successful and good transactions. But I was missing the creative side of it. I mean, buying and buying and buying real estate, it's nice, and it can make you money. Again, it depends, because you can buy good real estate, you can buy bad real estate. Real estate is not a magic. Like, it's not that if I buy real estate, I become rich, or I become financial stability. I mean, it takes more than that. You got to manage it. You gotta go through the cycles of economy, and et cetera, et cetera. But for me, I think I have this weird story that somebody, I think buying real estate is, you gotta know what you're doing. If it's a single family, or it's a multi-family, whatever it is, you gotta know what you're doing in everything you're doing in life. It's not about, hey, I have this great deal, I can go and leverage that and then put a little bit of money and make more money. It never is like that. I rarely know people that just buy real estate and become like wealthy out of real estate. You gotta know what you're doing. And it's this story that somebody called me one day and said, hey, this and that group just they were syndicating a deal, and I gave them like $100,000 or $150,000, and they ended up messing with my money, and I didn't get what I was promised, blah blah blah. And I said, did you ever fly to the place that they sold you the deal to? And he said, no, because I got good references. I said, yeah, but you spent $100,000 or $150,000 in whatever city that was. Did you spend $2,000 getting there, walking the street, going to some brokers, asking a few questions? Like, spend like a few hours in the place that you're going to spend your $100,000, $150,000 in. And he said, no, because, and then he obviously had all the excuses in the world, right? So, and he ended up losing that money. And I think that's kind of what people are missing. There's no magic in the world. There's no like free rides. You got to do the effort.
You're making some people cry right now, just so you know. They're like, oh man, I was hoping that there was a silver bullet and a free ride.
No. I'm sorry. There's no silver bullet. I mean, yeah, but do you want to build your life on the chance of like choosing the right 6 numbers? You know what I mean? It's not like, or choosing the right deal. I mean, we work so hard in our life. We work so hard on getting where we need to get. We should be smart about how we spend the money that we potentially were able to save or to put aside to invest. That's my kind of my primary. As an entrepreneur, I think the key element, even if you're a real estate investor or if you're an entrepreneur, the key element is to really like be realistic with yourself, assess the situation, analyze the situation, touch the wall, as we like to say. Go and touch the wall. See that what you're doing actually ground of doing so. And to your point, most people, you know why most people are crying, by the way, now, because they're always looking for the easy kind of route of doing things. But I don't know, Snapchat, WeWork, like all the big names that you know that made billions of dollars or made great startups or big real estate companies. None of the founders or the entrepreneur had like an easy day waking up in the morning. Oh, I have this great idea. Let's just do it. And then he made an exit. It took blood, sweat, and tears to get there. So respect the hustle.
Yeah, yep. Blood, sweat, and tears. That's not just a saying, ladies and gentlemen. That's probably what it actually took. Okay. Now, with all those things being truth, and let's let that be the foundation, I have a question for you. Because I'm curious. I have many people know, especially in the audience, they know it's been a number of years now. I personally have not had my own vehicle. I literally Uber everywhere I go because it's cheaper. It allows me, it affords me more work time. It just works out way better. In the few moments when I have needed a car for something of that nature, I'll get a zip car. And now it is my understanding that you're kind of playing in the same space with Envoy, and I kind of like that. But you said something a second ago. You said, be realistic. I mean, the space that you're going after here, that's kind of a big one. It's a little bit more than what most people would say, oh, just be realistic. It seems like you're shooting for the stars here. All right, everybody. Thanks for listening, and I'm glad that you are enjoying what you are hearing thus far. But here's one of the things that's really important. One of the most important things that you can do is get started. One of the things that I've said before, and I say again, once you get started, stay started. But more importantly, there can be lots of roadblocks to getting started. So what we're going to do is we're going to remove one of those roadblocks for you and make it a little bit easier. Because the thing that I don't want to stop you is thinking, do I need a local number? How about a long distance number? Or should it be 800? How on earth am I going to make that happen so that people can contact me as I'm out there building my business, making my cash flow grow? But most importantly, understanding that it doesn't have to be difficult. Many of you may know, but if you don't, there's a company out there by the name of Grasshopper. And what I want you to do is I want you to go over to trygrasshopper.com/cashflowdiary. Grasshopper is the entrepreneur's phone system. It works like a traditional phone system, but requires no hardware to purchase, no software to install. It's just a number that flat works. So if you are out there building that distributed workforce across many different locations, it's a way for you to still go out there and make your number be unified, simple, easy to use, something we've been using for quite some time. So again, go over to trygrasshopper.com/cashflowdiary. Now, let's get back to the rest of the story.
We are shooting for the stars. I think Envoy is making, we're making a change. I mean, Zipcar is a nice example because for us, Zipcar is an extension of a rental car. It's a great company that existed. I think we call it 1.0, 2.0. Envoy is Envoy is a little bit different.
I like that.
And it's like Regis and never mind. I think that Envoy is doing a different thing. We analyzed and saw that there's a big difference between something becoming an amenity and something just become a service. I mean, we are. First of all, we became the go-to brand for mobility as an amenity in the U.
Oh, Ori, I just realized we never told everybody what Envoy is, because I want to have this conversation with you because I think there's a way with my business and your business that there's something there. But I just realized, I'm like, hold on, we're about to go deep on the nuances here, and they don't even know what Envoy there is yet. Let's back up and tell them what that is.
So Envoy is a community-based car sharing. What we do essentially is we provide electric vehicles and electric infrastructure to properties. So those vehicles will become an amenity to the tenants and guests. So we are servicing people within the live, work, and stay communities. So residential communities, hotels, and office spaces. It's pretty much you have a dedicated car in a building for the exclusive use of those tenants, guests, or members of that building. You go to the app, you download an app, and from that moment, you can go downstairs, grab a car, and take it to where you need to take it and bring it back. So you can take it as the gym, as the pool in the building. Now you have a car in the building that you can use. We also, in some cases, we do other modes of transportation like scooters and bikes, because we're not about a car. We're not a car sharing company. We're about mobility solution. We provide you, the tenant, the member, the guest, access to mobility solution, whatever that is, a dedicated one in your building. I'll wrap it by saying that we help the real estate industry. We believe that it should come from the real estate industry because think about what you just said. You either live, work, or stay somewhere, right? It's just on the street in between the times that you live, work, and stay. We want to give you access to a vehicle at your doorstep, wherever that is. In a very affordable and efficient and easy way. So that's what Envoy is about. We think that mobility should become an amenity. Mobility should be part of your community lifestyle if you live in a building. And as you said, I think, and you said it perfectly, the reason we are now able to do what we're doing is because of Uber and Lyft and Bird and Lime and all those guys. I think we don't live in a vacuum, as my partner likes to say. We are, because of, at the end of the day, for you to get rid of your car, you need to rely on other modes of transportation, right? You need to know that if I need to get to point A or point B, I can either use one or two or three options, and I'm going to get there. The more options you're going to have, that's going to lead you to leave behind your car ownership. Envoy is exactly that, because You can you at your doorstep. You can say, okay, I'm going to Uber because I need to get there and I don't want to deal with parking, or I'm going to just use a Bird or Lime or whatever scooter because it's a half a mile kind of a trip, or I need a car to do multiple stops, to run errands, to go somewhere, to go a longer out of town. I'm going to use Envoy. The multiple modes of transportation available for you now becomes your mobility solution.
Now, okay, and I think I'm beginning to pick up on the nuance of the difference. So I have a question. Like, are you saying then that the vehicle or the mode of transportation is only available to the residents? So someone who's not a resident, say at an apartment community or that doesn't work at that particular workplace, they can't use your service?
Correct. So it's only for the community members. So yeah, because it's a community, it's like the gym in a building. Somebody that doesn't live in that building cannot access the gym, right? It's only those who live in that building. We are working with portfolio-wide companies, some of the biggest names out there, and that we might get to a point where one community member in one community can access a different community as long as they're part of the same portfolio, the same kind of brand.
Yeah.
But that's something we work with the property management.
Well, when it comes out, being in Southern California myself, I see some of the communities. It looks like you've got some relationships with the Irvine company for sure, which is good. But I'm looking at some of the photos and I like what I'm seeing. I guess what I'm trying to understand is your customer the real estate portfolio owner, or can a smaller, someone who just has a 20 unit building or 10 unit building participate with you guys too?
We'll get there. Currently, our focus is large densities, so 100 units and up. But obviously we'll get there, because when something becomes a standard amenity, everybody wants it, and we'll adjust the business model around it. Currently, as you said, we're working with the Irvine company and some other names that you can see on the website, like the Gray Star related, and other big names that we work with and slowly we kind of standardize mobility as an amenity within their portfolios. And yeah, you said it right. It's the B2B to C, right? It's Envoy to the property management, but again, it's a property management providing the service to their tenants. So it's not about Envoy. It's where you live in a building, and now your tenant, your property management sends you an email or a text and said, hey, we just added a new amenity. You now have access to a car or a scooter, whatever it is. This is how you do it. Please download the app, blah blah, and gives you the whole kind of instruction on how to do it. But it's the building provides you, the user, the tenant, their tenant, and you access to mobility.
Yeah,
that's what it. It's great.
I like it. And let me just be transparent and tell you why I was asking about the smaller units and the smaller buildings is because we operate short-term rentals, right? And one of the areas where we have been looking to make some inroads is simply being able to provide transportation to a lot of our guests, because it's like the number one thing they purchase after they've chosen, that they're going to stay with us, is that they need a car. And we being able to offer something like this at some of our short-term rentals, which we may have an entire building, it's just not 100 units. That's the challenge. It becomes something that I find very interesting. I don't know if you guys ever thought about that.
Yeah, definitely. I think the short-term rentals and the co-living spaces, and there are great companies out there. We actually worked on a similar kind of venture ourselves, part of our real estate venture back in the day. But yeah, definitely, I think it's a product, and we can definitely look into that. We have different companies that have less than 100 units, but they have a short-term kind of buildings that obviously need that service. So yeah, definitely, we can address those. Those are part of the stay, actually, because the live is residential, large communities. Work obviously is obviously the WeWork of the world, and etc., and the office buildings, and then the stay is the hotels and the short-term / corporate kind of housing. So yeah.
Got it. Okay, I get it. It makes perfect sense. So I need to know the genesis of this idea because it's very nuanced. I mean, in the world of the Limes and the Ubers and the Lyfts, like you've mentioned, and then you're doing real estate. How do you wake up one day and go, I know we're going to get the properties and make mobility an amenity? Where did that come from?
From being a real estate person myself, looking at we're about to develop. So Eric and I owns about 3 acres of land in Arlington, Texas, next to University of Texas at Arlington, and that's part of the reason that made us come up with the idea is that we were looking to develop about, I don't know, 220 unit student housing building, and we're starting to analyze what are the amenities around us. And I don't know if you're familiar with student housing, but it's kind of ridiculous. They have tanning beds, massage rooms, poker rooms, like heated pool, playrooms. Like they have everything that is not conducive for studying, and it's a waste of money. It's ridiculous.
Yes.
And
it's
when
the
you
6-year
measure,
degree program. It's the 6-year degree program. That's basically what that is.
they're lucky to have a degree at the end. But but when you measure utilization, from the real estate mindset, when you measure utilization of those spaces, you see that it's 1 to 2% utilization, which translates pretty much to no value. It doesn't provide value to me, the real estate developer, because I spend millions of dollars to create them. But more importantly, it doesn't create a value to the tenant, right? Because he's not using it, so there's no need for that. And the city obviously doesn't care about it because it doesn't create environmental value. And then we said, okay, what if I try to look to bring a value to both me and the tenant and the city? What would that be? And mobility keeps coming back and back and back and back. And we say, what if a car will be here, or a scooter, or a bike would be here, when students initially we can go around, and maybe I can reduce parking requirements, because parking is not as required tomorrow than it was required yesterday, right? Because people will less and less own cars. So by that I mean I'm going to reduce cars from the road, etc. So going and analyzing and talking to the city, talking to the developers, talking to the tenants, we realize that it's a win-win to all. The real estate operator has an opportunity to provide an amenity that is new, that actually generates income for him, because we do revenue share with the property. So it's a zero cost amenity to them, which is very rare in real estate. The tenant can save cost of living because they now don't need to own a car, and they have access to a car when they need it. So that reduces a lot of their cost of living and give them efficiency of mobility. And the city is super happy because you reduce costs from the road. But also, if we reduce parking requirements for the developer, you also save millions of dollars of building those. So that kind of how everything came together for us, and it just made sense, and we just decided to kind of focus on Envoy, and here we are.
Yeah, but you did one extra thing. I mean, somebody might even say, well, why not just partner with a Lime or a Bird? Wouldn't that have done the same thing? I mean, why go through the work of the blood, sweat, and tears of building a whole new business?
Lime and Bird are on. So we were created a little bit before them when we were focused on electric vehicles. They came up with the scooters, which we now have as well. We have different programs with. I can't actually say, but we're one of the biggest scooter companies. We are working on a program where we're going to offer multiple modes of transportation together with them to our communities. So we already see integration there, but we also, with another company, we look at maybe providing it ourselves as a service. So we examine how we want to approach the multiple mode of transportation. But definitely one of the things that you're going to see in the market right now is consolidation. You're going to see, because the last year was like the year of let's try it all, right? Lime and Bird and Jump and Lyft and and Envoy and like
every color of the rainbow.
Exactly.
Every fruit. Yes.
Exactly. Now it's going to be, okay, let's consolidate, see what's needed, what's not, what is being operated smartly, what's not. Thankfully, Envoy is literally like heading the thing in terms of like brand recognition and a product fit. I think we're one of the only companies that have a true understanding of community-based mobility sharing, from the business model all the way to the customer service and support. And now we'll see how that all being translated to kind of a common kind of platform for everybody to integrate into.
Well, here's what I know. I love your idea. I love the what you're doing specifically for real estate owners, specifically like myself. Being able, when we're operating our short-term rentals, I see a very unique opportunity there. It's just I like it a lot. I really, really do. So with that being said, though, I'm sure there's a number of people who probably have the same question. Like, what have been some of the challenges that you guys have faced when it comes to building something like this? I mean, when you're dealing with the types of companies that you're talking about, these portfolio real estate owners, that's not an easy game to play or an easy door to knock on. And I'm guessing you've heard no at least once.
Yeah, it's the no's it's hearing the no's that takes us to the yeses, right? I mean, it's your strength of being able to push and push and push in everything you do as an entrepreneur. Yeah, definitely. But I think what served us well is the fact that Eric and I are coming from real estate. We did a lot of real estate. Eric was managing millions of square foot in his life, doing asset management for large portfolios of real estate, understanding the mindset of a real estate operator, understanding what can fly, what can never fly, what the product that he's going to implement in his portfolio, what he will never implement in his portfolio, and how to do it. I've been part of large portfolios as well and doing several transactions as well. And together as partners, we've been real estate operator ourselves. And I think the connections, the relationships, and the network we have, along with the understanding of how a real estate operator actually operates and how you implement. It's before implement. It's actually how you penetrate that very old school, very hard to kind of deal with mentality, and we created a very lean, seamless process that effectively can integrate to any real estate portfolio. And that's it. I think that's what gave us the I don't know. I don't want to say easy, but lack of a better word, easier access to those large portfolios. I mean, you understand? I think it's our ability. We talk real estate. We understand real estate. It's real estate people talking to real estate people. And that I think that gave us the advantage. We keep hearing yes. We keep hearing no. We're tweaking our at the beginning. We were tweaking our business model, maybe a little bit our offering, maybe a little bit our contract. But we got to a point, and I think that's why it's a very unique place in time. Is we got to a point where we understand why one of the names we talked about earlier, which are the biggest names out there, see Envoy as their in-house mobility solution. We brought them there. You know what I mean? And now it's on our side to make sure constantly, daily, minute, hourly, that we provide the superb kind of customer care from the B2B all the way to the B2C, and that's what all they care about. And
yeah, no, I think what's also interesting, and I'm sure you're aware of this, is that as this catches on, one apartment complex goes, "What? They're offering cars as an amenity? We got to do the same thing because we don't have any other." I mean, what are you going to say? You don't. There's a car at this one. I don't need a car. And that I think is a unique competitive advantage for each and every building operator or short-term rental operator or whomever's using your service. Was that part of your plan as well?
It's actually happening. We have multiple buildings. We have three main distribution channels, right? One is obviously the real estate portfolios that they have nationwide presence, and we just go within their portfolio. The second one is our partners, which is the charging station companies we work with and the utility companies we work with through different programs that we have. But the third one, which is equally important, is the user. You live in a building, you're now using Envoy for the last 6, 7, 8 months, and now you're moving to a new building. Most likely your first question will be, do you have Envoy in the building, to your new building? And if it doesn't have one, you'll go ahead and nominate. You're going to nominate the building. And we have examples where one tenant moved from one building to another. We nominate the building, and now he has a car there as well. And you actually said it right. I think if I'm a property manager and across the street there's an Envoy in that building, which I'm competing against rent and against occupancy, right? I gotta have Envoy. So yeah, we have them as well. We have a building that announced us before we actually closed with him. So yeah.
That's awesome. I love it. I that's why I love the just the thought process behind it, the need that you're serving. And I personally think more people should, not own a car, but because it's been working out for us very, very well. And I like how you're choosing to approach it for sure. Now, for those that have listened this far, I want to find out more about what you guys got going on. What's going to be the best way for them to catch up with you guys?
Please visit our website at www.envoydare.com. You can get all the information there. You can nominate your building. You can learn about the company, the wonderful team, and everything else.
So as we wind down, I have a final question for you because I'm kind of curious to hear your answer, given the number of many different things that you've done and where you're now landed. There's probably a person or two who's listening right now who's decided that, you know what, I'm going to do this. I'm going to make this happen. I'm going to become that entrepreneur. Or they go, you know what, I'm tired of this 6-figure. I'm ready for 7. I'm tired of 7. I'm ready for 8. They're whatever it comes down to, Ori, they're going to go for more. And they've decided that. They're at what I like to call the precipice of decision. Now, like I know, when we get there, we often have a companion, and that companion comes in the form of a voice. And it's a voice that reminds us of, well, it didn't work last time. Why is it going to work this time? And who are you? You're going to do what? You're going to talk to who? You're going to offer cars to the... That sounds crazy. What is wrong with you? And for some people, they're related to that voice. So my question to you is as follows. Let's pretend that this time it's going to be different. This time they're going to follow through, and they're going to do so in the next 24 to 48 hours. They're going to do exactly what you say. So, Ori, what should they do?
They should think of their idea, of their passion that they're like thinking of for doing it for the last 2, 3, 4, 5, 10 years, and they've been afraid of doing so. And they literally write the next step that they need to do in order to accomplish that. What is the first step that you need to do to move towards making it happen? I think 99% of the people in the world has great ideas, has passion, has dreams and aspirations. Only 1% have the ability to take it one step further. And I think that's what differentiates one from another. So think of what you want to do and just determine what is the first step that you need to do in order to execute it. Very lean, very simple, down to earth, not like I want to conquer the world and I'm going to be with 100 different stores in 100 different places in 100 days. What is the first step? First step. Don't think about branches. Don't think about networks. Don't think about like I'm going to be the Amazon of the world. Think about what is the next step that you can get that's going to make you do what you do.
I like it. I like it 100%. Sounds like that's advice you've followed as well. And I definitely appreciate, again, what you're doing, how you're changing the landscape of real estate and transportation in a completely different way. But let me also be one of the first to say thank you for taking the time to share your knowledge, your wisdom, and your insight here with us today at the CashFlow Diary.
Thank you so much for having me. It's just my humble opinion and experience throughout my life. Hopefully it will be successful. But yeah, I'm glad I was able to share it.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, you know what time it is. It's time for you to move at the speed of instruction. What does that mean? That means get over to envoythere.com. You know you're interested. You're wondering, what is this thing? Yes, maybe you live in a building that doesn't yet have it and you would like it to have it. I think you should, because, man, you can't possibly imagine how freeing it feels to not have to worry about tires and brakes and oil changes and so many things when it comes down to making your life work. Nonetheless, entrepreneurs are out there making it happen, and you just were introduced to one of them. Ladies and gentlemen, it's your turn. It's been fun talking to you today. I look forward to talking to you soon. Until next time.